Hey YouTubers, what's up? It's me, yours truly, back to post a quick response video to Vinyllover 95's last thread. Three quick questions, and as always, just wanted to jump in on it, put my 2 cents in and see what you guys think. This is what's playing in the background, if I get going too far. This is Terry Reid's Seed of Memory. I know, funny looking album cover, but definitely a good album. That's what's playing in the background. I first learned about him when I saw, was it The Devil's Rejects, I think? You know, the song title track off of this Seeds of Memory was in that movie, and I absolutely loved that song to death, and went out and finally found the album, and of course it had this funny looking cover on there, but really, really good stuff. He's kind of a weird guy, but how many musicians can we say that about? But anyway, these are the three questions that Vinyllover 95 put out, and I promised him I was going to get a response here. Question number one, 2 things you love about your local record store, and 2 things you dislike. And I'm going to kind of answer it with my local store, but then also one of the bigger stores that I visit quite often, about 2 hours away, that I also consider my local store. My local store, the number one thing I like most about it is definitely the people. The manager and all the staff that works there, great people, friendly people, just the kind of people you want to be around. You know, guys are cool, women are attractive, all of them are nice. You can't ask for anything more than that. So I absolutely love those guys, all of them. The second thing I like about it is the ordering that they have there. It's very, very easy to order stuff with them. You know, they look it up lightning fast. They get orders taken care of. They come in quick. They call you when they come in. I mean, they just like really on top of getting the stuff that you ask for. So that's definitely a plus. The dislike, really the number one thing I dislike most about it is the size. I mean, a year or two ago, they really didn't even have a vinyl section. So now they have kind of a whole row dedicated to vinyl. So it's not even quadruple. I mean, it's like 10 times, 15 times the size it used to be. So they are growing, but still, just kind of in general, it's still kind of a small selection. So that's definitely the biggest dislike. But it's a good store, and I do like going there all the time just to mingle with those guys and so forth. Now, the bigger store that's a couple hours away is called Vintage Vinyl. That's probably my favorite store out of the 3 major stores in St. Louis. There's a Record Exchange in Euclid, which is the 2 I did the videos on, and Vintage Vinyl, I haven't done a video yet, but I will. And the 2 things I like most about that store, it's the most complete store in terms of having a very, very good and solid R&B section, a very good jazz section, very good rock section. Even their metal section is better than most other stores, even though it's still not big enough for me. But you know, so overall, just it's the most complete store. That's what I like most about it. The second thing is the location. It's kind of in the midst of this little downtown college area called University City. This is what it was the name of the area. So there's a lot of different, you know, little restaurants, pubs, theaters, and just, you know, hippie places. And, you know, so when you go down there, there's oftentimes a number of things you can do besides just go to the record store. 2 things I dislike most about that location, or that place, is the location. As much as I like the location, it's also something you dislike because you're dealing with, you know, kind of downtown parking and that type of thing. So, but it's not horrible, but still, it could be a pain sometimes. The second thing the second thing I dislike most about that store is most of the gems they get to come to that store is all put on eBay. So you don't really get the chance to go in and find, just kind of in the store, some of the great records that they get in from buying collections and stuff. Just like we talked about a long time ago, you know, they have that little back room where they do all their eBay sales, and that stuff never hits the shelf. So that's something I kind of don't like about it, but, you know, a lot of stores are doing that now anyway, so you can't fault them for trying to make money and keep their doors open. So that's my like and dislikes about those 2 stores. Question number 2, what are 3 of your favorite acoustic albums? I'm kind of cheating on these a little bit, so I know for the most part all these albums aren't 100% acoustic across the board, but they're acoustic enough for me, let's put it that way. And one I would choose would be this Terry Reid album that I just told you about a minute ago. I don't know if you can hear that song playing in the background, but that's Seeds of Memory, which is an absolute great album. I'm sorry, great song. But then after that, this is the one where I say I may be cheating a little bit, but overall, this definitely offers an acoustic feel. I mean, for the most part, it's an acoustic album. Brett Dennen, Hope for the Hopeless, really good LP. Kind of going back to the whole, singer-songwriter type thing. Some of my favorite songs on this would be probably San Francisco, and Ain't Gonna Lose You is definitely my favorite song, and that's definitely an acoustic song, so that would be one. Next would be Elliott Smith, Either Or. And just in case you guys don't know this guy, if you've seen the movie Good Will Hunting, all that stuff you heard in there was Elliott Smith. Matter of fact, a lot of it was off of this album. So definitely one of my favorite acoustic albums. I love the song Angelus off of here. Absolutely great. That was actually the song in the movie that made me go find out who sang it, what album it was on, and all of that good stuff. And in case you've seen the movie but aren't sure which song I'm talking about, after her and Will broke up and she was leaving, when she was in the airport hoping that he would show up or whatever, it's that song that was playing in the background while she was in the airport. So that's a very good track. And last but not least, I'll count it Nirvana Unplugged. Definitely, technically acoustic. Very good album there. And of course, you guys know about this with About a Girl and All Apologies. I mean, that's some just legendary performances there. So consider I don't have none that came to mind. That's really the 3 or 4 that jumped out of my mind about acoustic albums that I really like. And again, I know all those albums aren't acoustic all the way through, so cut me some slack on that. Question number 3. 3 records from separate artists that are somehow linked. This is the one link that came to mind, so it'd be interesting if you guys kind of think about what it is before I actually say it. One, I don't have the album, I only have the CD, but we have Def Leppard. Of course, you guys know this, Hysteria. And I don't care what anybody says, song for song, one of the best albums ever made. Ever. Without question. So we got Hysteria. I can say the same thing about AC/DC, Back in Black. And then the third album, Shania Twain, Come On Over. And so these are the 3 different albums by 3 different artists that have a linked connection. And the link between these 3 albums is they were all produced by what I think is one of the greatest producers of all time, which is Robert Mutt Lange. I guess known by Mutt in the music industry. This is just 3 of the albums he's worked on. That guy has laid his hands on so many albums that have just completely turned to gold that it's not even funny. I mean, as a producer, he's incredible. But yeah, he produced all 3 of these albums, and so even when you kind of think about that, Shania Twain, this album, I believe, this sold about 23 million copies. So I mean, in the 90s, this was actually the #1 selling album of the 90s. And I guess, when you see Shania, you don't think about that much, but that's the top selling album. I don't know if it's changed in the past year, because I know that was like from a few years ago, but at that point, this was the #1 selling album of the 90s. And then when you look at AC/DC, Back in Black, exact same thing. You go back into the 80s, this was, I think, the #2 selling album of the 80s. The only thing that outsold this was Michael Jackson's Thriller. So again, Mutt doing his thing. And then, of course, Def Leppard, Hysteria, I think that's at like 12, 15 million, something like that. And the story I always like to tell about this album, which I know I've said in the video in the past, but when this album really sparked, it went so big so fast that there was one day that they sold almost 500,000 copies in one day, which means the album reached gold status with one day of sales. I mean, and again, Mutt was the one that just ran this thing from top to bottom. So that's kind of the connection between those 3 is one of my favorite producers, Mutt Lang. But other than that, those are my answers. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll be back probably tomorrow to post a recent finds video. Like I mentioned before, with my move and everything, I just have not been purchasing much of anything whatsoever. So I have maybe 3 or 4 pieces I can share, but other than that, I will look forward to talking to you guys soon. All right, take care.